Well, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome to the Eden Professional Development Monthly Webinar, and we appreciate all of you taking your time today. You realize, and I think you've been told before, that it'll be recorded and posted on Connect after this, and I think through another email to you, so you will have access to it in case you want to review it, or if you want to even pass it on to somebody else so that they can see it. So anyway, so again, my name is Connie Burnham, and I'm the chair of the Professional Development Committee for Eden. And every month, we try to find some kind of a webinar that will be interesting and very educational for any of you that are on. And we hope that today you will feel that way. We will be hearing from Liz Fisher, and she's at University of Hawaii. So it's very early in the morning for her. And she's already been on one other call. So you can imagine, that she's pretty much raring to go, I'm sure. I will let her do a real brief, this is who I am and this is kind of my background. But I want to make sure that you realize that we'll have an evaluation form, and I think that Reagan's going to be putting that in the chat. And then also, we're always looking for new webinars. So there's a webinar submission form, and Reagan's also going to put the link for that in the chat box. So we have that. So again, I'm going to turn this over to Liz, and you can take it from here.
Well, in that case, aloha kakiakaha. Anyway, good morning, y'all. It's good. It's 7:04 a.m. in Honolulu, just so you know. And I'm not a morning person, so you're welcome. I am a professional emergency manager working in extension. And so I'm bringing a different lens of the Eden world to you this morning, afternoon, wherever you are, afternoon for most of the country now. So with that, I'm just going to say I'm here to show how there are opportunities where we can build bridges between my profession of emergency management and the awesome opportunities that are available in extension. So with that, this is where we're going today. The challenge is extension knows extension really well. Emergency management knows emergency management really well. But we need to build a bridge between the two. So that's where we're starting. And why am I at the table today? That's a kind of core element.
It's about email.
I was in extension. Candy, if you'd put your thing on mute, thank you. I actually was very familiar with extension as a kid. 3 states, 4 counties, loved 4-H camp. Also knew extension through family farms and the community in which I grew up and the role that extension played. So I have a childhood heart with extension. So I come from it. And yes, I can tell you all about baling hay by June 19th on the east in the mid-Atlantic, because that's when the first hay came in, and the joys of summer hay and sweating in fields. And it's not pleasant, but we did it. I'm an emergency manager here in Hawaii by profession. I've practiced at the federal, state, and local levels, predominantly federal. My expertise is national here in Hawaii at state and local, as well as international in the Pacific Basin. I am an international subject matter expert in
I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean.
Response and recovery. I am the senior advisor to the Hawaii State Mass Care community, and I'm a National Academy of Sciences and Engineering peer reviewer. The good news for this conversation is that before 2024, last fall, extension was not even a concept, not even known as a possibility here in Hawaii. And that's why I'm here now, because Hawaii, and this is something that you guys who live continent don't even begin to comprehend, is that we're 2,500 miles from everything. which means if you see in these circles, that's 2,500-mile distance from us to our nearest port in Los Angeles. For those of you who've heard all the great conversations coming from North Carolina and their response to Helene, that's how many people, how many countries could help North Carolina in their disaster response and recovery. And also because why not? Olympics were in Paris last summer. That's what Paris could get in their case. We are very, very far from everything and resources. We have to be independent of everything because it takes too long to get stuff here. But we also have a population in need. Basically, 41% of our population can't afford the basic food and water supplies that they need to have stocked for our minimum of 14-day disaster preparedness recommendations. In Hawaii, we have to know our capabilities, what we have, what our skill sets are, what tools and resources we have, and how they're interrelated. And that's only the beginning point. And this is the conversation we're having today is what is it that we all have to go forth and do? So I bring fresh eyes because Extension knows what Extension knows. Emergency management knows what emergency management knows. I'm here to help bridge the conversation of how can we work better together to support our communities. So in Extension, this is stuff that you guys, we all know for Extension. It's more than agriculture. It's more than the community services that we, and education that we do. It's about the whole family and the whole community through the extension, cooperative extension lens. I'm going to bring up some examples here. Some of these you've already seen thanks to this community's presentation. But because I think they're important enough to reiterate, I put them here. But first, an introduction to extension here in Hawaii. We are across 6 of the 8 major islands. 2 of our islands are not available for general public. It does take a boat or a plane to get between each island. We can't drive between our counties. We can drive on each island, but we can't drive between each island. It's 30 minutes to an hour flight between, and it can be, anywhere from 3 to 7 hours to go by boat between islands, just except for Big Island to Honolulu. And by the way, that takes about 15 hours by boat. These are the things that we provide. We have agriculture and food systems, economic community development like everybody else, our natural systems, nutrition, family concerns. That's all the fun things that we do. But lessons from Hawaii, which I wish I had known about extension, particularly during COVID when I was operational planning section chief for the state of Hawaii during COVID. And we had to go find horse feed across several islands for animals that were neither agricultural use or pets. These were trail horses, and we had run out of food for those animals in the state during COVID. And I worked with our emergency management official from the State Department of Agriculture trying to find fields where we could get these horses temporarily grazing. Because anybody knows a horse, you put them in a field and they're a happy camper just to go nosh. But if I'd known that extension was there, he and I could have tapped extension to find those fields. We also had the largest ever globe in the world live animal movement of cats and dogs ever. 600 live cats and dogs were moved in under 24 hours across the state of Hawaii to the Pacific Northwest. If I had known that extension was available, I could have brought in state ag and the extension vets that are available to do wellness checks of these animals as they were moved between the islands before they moved to the Pacific Northwest. And by the way, they were moved because we have a lot of animals. Animal shelters were overcrowded, and typically commercial flights, the animals go as cargo, moving off island to other places. In the Maui Fires, if I had known that extension existed, we could have brought in the mental health and family support community that extension offered. Because it's ongoing, but it was definitely a crisis need when the Maui Fires happened. But there's also another lesson that came in, and this is where I, as an emergency manager, look at it, is we had 2 of our research stations were threatened by fire. Excuse me, during the Maui Fires. This was upcountry Kula. But they did not have any updated, their emergency plans were not updated. And there were no personal readiness plans, and the community plans didn't address those research stations and how those research stations, how would they be impacted if the fires had gone up there. So this is, again, pieces of emergency management that could have supported our research stations and extension, but also that extension could have greater supported the community in the mental and health community support. We've heard a couple presentations on Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina. This is here just as a reminder. There's one last November and one earlier this year by that extension team. Awesome work that they've done. Tons of lessons coming out of that effort. However, and this is the emergency manager speaking about extension, that there is a critical need for an after action report from North Carolina extension to the State Department of Public Safety for the lessons learned coming out of Helene. And I've already been touch base with Mike and his team, offering my services to help them, because I spent a lot of my life, both coastal and mountains of North Carolina, before I moved to Hawaii. You heard about the University of Kentucky strike team just a couple months ago. Awesome work, really important thing. What can extension bring to a state and its disaster preparedness and response? Awesome work this is. LSU, this is not typical extension work. This is where the planning extension worked out of the landscape architecture program at LSU, working to help with the GOSEP statewide hazard mitigation plan. That is an incredible piece where extension, where the skills could come into play. Lots of really good resources where LSU is playing as a direct partner. And more recently, UCLA, through the landscape architecture program, where there is an extension manager has been located working on urban forestry and preservation of the urban forest, rather than have the debris teams come in and just doze down everything. The community with extension identified key urban trees that were still healthy, with some minor care, could remain in the community. This is important stuff. This is important for not just farm, but also urban areas of extension and its role. Now, moving into my professional world. Emergency management definitely knows what emergency management is. This is a community that is based heavily in a legal framework and very standardized protocols and practices. It means that I can go literally from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, across the United States and implement knowledge and skill sets, because everybody within the US has the same training, and the Canadian, Australian, New Zealand trainings and practices are very similar enough that we can go and actually exchange with each other. particularly out here in the Pacific, that does become a key issue. Professional training and practice. There are position standards. Again, it's formalized. There are certifications and expectations. Our networks, let me put in a quick example. My boss back in January said, "Hey, we need to do a report. Can you give us a summary of your impact outreach network?" And I said, "Well, my short list is over 300, and that's on a blue skies day. That's just the agencies and organizations. That's not the people within." And that's how broad and expansive this profession is. We are chaos coordinators, and we actually plan for the worst and hope for the best because we know what the realities are if we don't. So quickly, overview of the documentation in the world in which emergency managers work. This is something I created for the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, showing what the document, the world in which we function. It starts with statutory regulatory environment and goes down to SOPs, checklists, documentation of basic records and forms, the tools and resources. From high level of legal authority to low level of legal authority. Scopes are broad, scopes are very narrow, frequencies are updated regularly, and sometimes, well, on the legal side, as needed and whatnot. Again, it is a structured environment. Training and exercise, and this is no offense to Eden, but outside of Eden, it is training and exercise because you train before you test. It's part of the preparedness cycle. It is an expected language. You will see that there is a mandatory baseline for training for all emergency management employees, state, local, federal. It starts with 4. Okay, look, 100, 200, 700, 800. This is what's recommended for Eden. These are the rest of the courses. All of those have to be done in the first 3 months of employment if you don't already have them. The annual average continuing education hours spent by every emergency manager with whom I've ever worked is at least 100 hours a year, usually more. I have over 3,500 hours of continuing ed in my own experience just in the last 10 years. Just to give you an idea of, this is a rigorous continuing education learning community. When we get into exercises, and they are there to test agency plans and staff knowledge. Again, it goes back to, do you know, are you keeping up with what's changing and internal and external to the profession? And after action reports, training and exercise are incredibly important. It's both planned and for here in Hawaii. Today, I could have been looking at you with hurricane rains pounding upon my house instead of the sunshine that is just come up over the mountain. But it's using opportunity to plan ahead and take advantage of resources and events as they happen. In emergency management, we also talk about the emergency support functions. They're also lifelines. They work in tandem, but the emergency support functions are the framework that organizes the multiple variety of organizations and tools and resources that you have to know as part of preparing for, responding to, and recovering from a disaster. There are 18 of them, actually 12, up to 18, depending on what state you're in. Hawaii, we have 20. It varies state by state. But those that are particularly of import for extension are ESF6-Mass Care, which is human services, food, water, shelter, domestic pets, things of that sort, mental health. ESF8, which is Public Health and Medicine, which is again where your mental health and comes into play, and other healthcare, and ESF11, which is Agricultural and Natural Resources. That's farm, field, flocks, what have you there. Lifelines. This is more an organizing principle for communities that says this is the essential stuff we have to have when we're preparing for disaster and for initial response and recovery. What do we need to know? So for extension, the key areas are food, hydration, shelter, and health and medical. They don't have numbers associated with them. This is a concept. California Office of Emergency Services does have an agriculture and economic task force, but not every state does this. So it's being aware of what possibilities, where extension can fall in playing with emergency management. So who are the players? Federal, state, local agencies. It's the community groups. It's your local nonprofit resilience hub. It's the local paratransit agency. It's your county office of planning. It's your state Department of Transportation. It's anything and anybody that can come to the table and that you touch upon, that your world and your work touches upon, that gets you food on the table and the sewer running out the pipe if you're in an urban area, or decides that, yeah, you can't, your septic system is approved or not. Everybody's at the table. And it also includes private sector and industry. And this is corporate, whether it be the big box stores such as Home Depot and Target, Walton Corporation and their varied interests. It's it's also the smaller food importer that comes into the community, at least for us. Hawaii Food Alliance is a very important partner for us because they make sure that we have our fresh veggies. Yeah, you heard it. In Hawaii, we fly our fresh veggies in. Don't get me started, but that's just a reality here. And also one of the partners that needs to be at the table and is not always at the table are universities. So let's get on a whirligig and figure out how we're going to get there together. A key element, and I brought one of my extension colleagues to a local regional emergency managers conference last month, and her head was blown away by even blue skies, the rapid fire ping pong of conversation, the direct, the blunt demeanor of the emergency management community. And this is blue skies, and she was blown away by that. And I said, wait till gray skies. Gray skies is disaster, by the way. And it gets even more intense. So we come from, oh, look how pretty the colors are on the whirligig, and then all of a sudden we're speeding up and understanding that is the world is not working at the rate of generations of cattle herds and seasonal plant growth. This is rapid fire community. For extension to play, there is a core expectation of, can we speak the same language? Do we have comparable, similar training where we have confidence in each other's ability to work in this crisis event? There's an expectation of, do you know your local, your regional natural hazards? And do you know what resources are available which you can tap for extension by itself or extension and its partners? So this looks at how what are some of the logical alignments of extension with emergency management? Again, the ESFs, mass care, public health, agriculture, and natural resources. Get to the table, get extension written into the annexes, and that's a type of plan where extension has an active role. Partner with your state or local emergency management agent, particularly state, which is where emergency support functions have a role. And these annexes exist. Donations and volunteer management. North Carolina Extension in particular did a massive amount of awesome work during Helene in Western North Carolina, showing where and how extension plays a fantastic role. I tout them for being an awesome model and it's just now a year later and it's still pretty challenging for them, but knowing that they did that role. The family and community services that extension offers, bring those to the table. There is a role for extension. Food and nutrition support. I cannot tell you how important this is. Ooh, excuse me. Particularly in the food and nutrition and understanding regional diet. Here in Hawaii, we are a rice-based culture. So when somebody from mainland comes in with this wonderful potato solution, that's fine, but this is a rice-based culture. So you have to know what's appropriate. We're also more heavily vegetarian, particularly in the Asian part of our community. So you have to know what foods are appropriate or not. What works in Iowa doesn't work in Hawaii. So that's why extension is important, that we all can be that translator of, hey, great idea, but let's go this direction because this is what the community needs. This is how we prepare to make sure the community has these resources. Hazard mitigation planning. You saw LSU. There's extension support in landscape architecture and planning programs at UCLA, Cornell, LSU, and NC State. Those are just the 4 I know about for sure. But know that, hey, there's extension. This is where extension can play a role. And then within disaster response, extension is not and is never cannot be a legal response organization body, but we can support the responders. So that's an important concept to understand, is we're not the responders, but we support those who are. Very important nuance. Keep that right, that just embedded. But what extension brings is facilities. North Carolina brought a couple of its barns or warehouses to the table. They brought their office as the county EOC. Here in Hawaii, we're using one of our research stations as a training base for the search and rescue teams on that particular island. We're working with the community for resilience hubs and how do we tap our existing resources to strengthen ahead of disaster in preparation for disaster, our existing tools, but also what we can bring to the table when disaster hits. And it's also bringing in the knowledge of extension staff, employees, faculty, agents, whatever your titles are, but know that you bring a body of knowledge and expertise that is important in disaster response and support. So how do we get there? Well, first and foremost, know what the plans are. Again, emergency management is very well documented. Start with your university. If you haven't already connected with your public safety office, there is a ton of planning documents out there for university system disaster preparedness. Use those as a starting point to understand how the university works, so then you can build and bridge to the emergency management community. Look at the annexes that are directly related to the work you do in extension, agriculture, mass care, public health, What are the state laws and the permissibilities of extension having a role? Your state may or may not have a legal permissibility, which says just look up your state laws. Each state has their own, and I've read all 50 of them. Some are similar and a whole lot are more different. Meet and greet, learn from each other, do your introductions in blue skies, meet the emergency management community in blue skies, share those business cards in blue skies, because when gray skies hit, that business card is going to go into a pile, onto a table. Your call will not get answered until months after the event has happened. That is the reality of it. Get to know your emergency management community in blue skies. Start now. But also get to know, if your state has Sea Grant, get to know your Sea Grant colleagues if you don't already know them. They're your partners in opportunity. And also use Eden and this community for networking and learning from each other. This is professional development. This is all the key Eden committees that are doing really awesome things. Build and use this relationship that Eden offers. But also build relationships internal to the university. Don't just get stuck in the people you already know and work with. Here at the University of Hawaii, I'm building bridges with Department of Engineering, School of Architecture, with School of Hawaiian Studies, with the Business School, with the School of Medicine. Look at opportunities, because there's some amazing things that are happening that we can have a role in disaster preparedness working with those other partners. But also look at, through those other external and internal university partners, others that are out there that, hey, I need to know my public works department who deals with the roads that get to the farms where their crops or their herds need to get to market, because that's a lesson North Carolina discovered. North Carolina Extension didn't really know their public works folks, or the state DOT in their case. Well, once they got to know them, they've got a really good partnership going, because now product can get to market in disaster. Key routes can get selected for faster improvement so that stuff can get to market, but also so that they know where the critical resources that can be used for disaster response and recovery are within the greater community, so that they can get out to other parts of the community in need. Bottom line, get out of your comfort zone. Go find the cool people that are out there that need to know how awesome extension is. But internally, we also need to start looking at what is the state of our facilities? Can our facilities, are they ready to be used in disaster? How well are they going to stand up to disaster? Are they in a flood zone? Are the termites and dry rot got to them and those buildings are going down with somebody sneezes? Where's our fuel supply? How is it ready? How is it protected? Things that you need to know. What are our own internal business resilience plans, as in taking care of human resources, finance, IT and communications? How are we going to be able to do our business? How are we training and building the knowledge capacity of our own staff for business continuity and personal readiness? Very important steps. Are we ready in our own personal and immediate work lives to prepare for disaster? What are we doing to train our extension partners, the folks that we work with daily? How are we helping them prepare for disaster? And then undertake training and exercises and applying the knowledge learned from those things, as I've done with some of the case studies here today, and bringing those into best case examples of, hey, here's a great lesson. What can we do in our own stuff and carry it forward? But bottom line, like with the airlines, learn to take care of yourself before you help others. Everything starts with, am I personally ready before I can go help others? So to wrap things up, get to know your local, state, regional emergency management team. Know them not only as people, but as an organization. Learn as to the best extent possible, because it is a heavy lift, the language and culture of emergency management, but at the same time, teach them the language of extension. It is a beautiful language, and emergency managers don't know it, and they need to know it, because there's so much that extension has to offer. Look at the assets and the capabilities that extension can bring to the table in preparing for and responding to and recovering from disaster, and say, hey, emergency management community, this is what we have. This is how we can help. This is how what we have and what we do ties into this plan, this process, because we've done our homework and we've identified these places, or here in Hawaii, we say pukas, Puka, are the holes, the gaps that we know you have that we can help fill in preparation. And key to all of this is training in the doctrine. Do more than the 100, 200, 7, and 800. It's a few hours, move it over a few months, go back to those basic requirements that emergency management staff are expected to have. It's worth your time. And a lot of those tools and those trainings are directly applicable to your regular job anyway. Leadership, working with volunteers, communication skills. They're there. Just do the checkbox. Hey, I've done these courses. Then emergency management will say, oh, you do have an interest in being a partner with us. But most of all, be a partner. Take the opportunity to learn and meet high disaster communities, the Gulf Coast, East Coast, West Coast, Tornado Alley. You should, if you're not already a regular partner, really need to be a regular partner. Those of you who are experiencing increasing fires, now's the time to step up and say, hey, we can be at the table. We are a benefit to your efforts. And sometimes it's, how do you just help the local community get food and water distributed, or find out where that feed supply is for somebody's pet crisis. You never know what you need to know to help those in need. So with that, I'm Liz Fisher. I when I'm not working crazy hours, race outrigger canoes internationally, which is where I get to go see cool things in cool places and learn from other cultures and speak multiple languages. Here's my contact information. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you, Liz. That was great information. As a matter of fact, it's something that I want to see that PowerPoint, because you've got lots of things in there that I'd like to put
That's
into
why I
a
sent it to
training
you last
program.
night.
Absolutely. So anyway, I'll be using some of your things. That's great. I forgot to ask all of you to put your name in the box there and where you're from, but we do know how many people are on the call and are on the webinar, and there's 60 of you. So that's quite a few of you that have joined us today. So put your name in the chat box if you don't mind, and your university. And then also, how about questions? Anyone have any questions or comments that you'd like to make?
If I answered everything, that's amazing. And if I didn't, if I scared the bejesus out of you, sorry, not sorry. And by the way, Connie knows, having spent time in EOC's emergency operation centers for Missouri, the pace is very, very different.
Yes, it is indeed. Okay, Katie, I think you have your hand up if do you have a question?
Yeah, so I was wondering, what is the best way to approach emergency managers when you are starting those relationships?
Um, which state are you in, may I ask?
Michigan.
Michigan. Um, well, you've got a lot of incredible urban as well as rural there. You know what? Just a blind call to ask for staff. You know what? Ask to speak with staff who deal with the emergency support functions 6, 8, and 11. That's literally, that would be your first step. Don't start at the bosses, start down at with staff because they're the ones who need to know that you're a ready resource for them. That's at the state level, but also go to your county or city emergency management agency. Start with your local person and say, hey, we want to be a better partner. How can we help? This is what we're doing. This is what we're learning about us so that we can help you, and start having that conversation there, and then use them to also get you into the state dialogue as well.
Okay, Joanna, question?
You're
So my
muted. Oh,
question
there you go.
is, hello?
Yep,
Gotcha.
you're on. Good.
So my question is that I did ICS 100 and 200 many years ago, like after 9/11. How long will that last until you need to do it again? I probably should, because I don't remember a lot anyway.
Well, I highly recommend you go ahead and retake them because they've been updated.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a couple hours. It's worth your time just to go ahead and get updated.
Great. Thank you.
And definitely do all 4 at the barest minimum. Let me go back to that slide of
1, 2, 700,
There we go.
800.
Yeah, I
we go.
have 100, 200, 700, and 800 you recommended.
Yeah. Those are the basics,
Mhm.
quite honestly. I would do all 6 of those that are on the first line.
Oh, okay.
706 and 2200. Just do them all. Actually, I'm going to bring my notes up because that's where the important stuff really is. There's a benefit to having my notes live.
Right. True.
You need to know the National Incident Management System. Just NIMS basic is really important. 2200, I don't expect extension to ever be in an EOC, but if you're like Yancey County, North Carolina, he became the EOC after Helene. So you actually
Can I just ask you a quick question about that? What about in the state that I live in Vermont, we do have local incident commands, the fire department or local emergency. Would extension be part of those?
In Vermont townships, right?
No.
Oh, sorry, New Hampshire.
We don't have county extension. We have regional offices. There's no county extension.
Okay. Because this is a weird factoid. I used to be U.S. Department of Transportation. Vermont has the same number of miles of road and population that Alaska does. Just here's a bizarre factoid. I do know this. That's because y'all are so small, relatively speaking. Have a chat. Just work with the state. Start with the state. Tell you what, Joanna, send me an email and I will figure out who you need to work with, and I'll put my contact information back up.
Thank you.
I'll get you connected because I did some interviews with them a couple years ago. I'll dig up my notes and figure out who the right people are to talk to there.
Well, Liz is pointing out a really important point here is that I can pretty much say that there is no state in the union that is organized in emergency management like another state. I
Yeah.
mean, there are so many different ways of organizing state government, and it would be, an agency or part of a department in the state. So I know what Missouri does, but I would have to look it up and see how somebody else, how they're organized. But I mean, that is very important to understand that, and then also to understand how your locals are organized. Are they cities? Are they states? Are they uh, uh, whatever the title is for how your local communities are organized? And that too can make a difference, and how they operate for sure. And if they're small, they're very I mean, and many of them could have even a part-time emergency management director, and could be a volunteer, because they convince these people that get out of the military a lot of times and retire in these communities and say, oh, it's not a big deal. Why don't you be our emergency management director? And then all of a sudden something happens and they realize what that really means. But I mean, anybody who's been in the military can then pick it up and move with it. I'm not saying that they're not capable. I'm just saying that a lot of times that's how they get them in there in the first place. So anyway, you just have to know who your
Which is
local people
very,
are.
very, very, and I'm going to add to that, Connie.
Mhm.
That is a massive challenge because the military is very accustomed to a certain command and control
Mhm.
line of practice. And when 95% of your partner agencies, state, federal, and local, are civilian, that military command and control comes across like old fingernails on an old school chalkboard. Oh, that is not pretty. And it creates problems. So, and that's actually was the survey done last year. Report just came out in July nationwide of some of those very issues at the national level.
Well, Tommy Bass from Montana, and many of us know Tommy, he encourages county faculty to visit with county emergency managers as the first step at the local level. He said they've had good traction with the state government's ESF11 team. So again, there's no one way to do this. I mean, it's kind of like you just kind of have to work your way into it and figure out how you best position yourself, with it. And then Greg, Ira from University of California, Agriculture and Natural Resources, home to climate stewards. So Greg, do you have any comment about that or want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I posted a question in the chat. Much of what Extension does seems to fall under the kind of mitigation realm of the emergency management cycle. And I'm particularly interested in knowing how the growing number of Extension climate resilience programs have been or could be integrated into the kind of mitigation efforts of emergency managers. And are there any good examples of states that are doing that?
I would say LSU has done some really good work. I'm not sure what level of work North Carolina State has done yet. But tell you what, Greg, ping me an email, and because that's a very important question to ask. And by the way, I like your lighthouse because I know that one has Fresnel lenses in it. Very, very cool lighthouse.
Hey, Greg, are you a delegate to Eden?
I am.
Okay,
I haven't
well,
been
good.
very active, but yeah.
No, you don't have to qualify, how busy or involved you are. I'm just asking the question because I thought you can send that question to, all of us.
IAEM Connect.
And, and just, ask the question and say, if anybody has any information about this, please respond. And then everybody that's on that is you're looking at those emails, we'll get that information and then be able to also, respond to you and that sort of thing. So anyway, it is a good way. And if you don't know that, if all of you that are on here do not realize that you can do that, you can. And use that as an opportunity. I've used it a couple times and it is simply amazing how many people will spend the amount of time that those of you out there to write very detailed emails about very important issues. So,
I want to highlight a comment that was made, and this goes to my transportation heart. Karen Cox brought up the LTAP, is the extension for highways. That's the learning, transportation, something or other. Okay, yeah, I work for Federal Highway and now I can't remember what LTAP stands for. But anyway, it's thank you, Karen, for bringing up that point. I'm very, very stoked on that.
let's see. Oh, yeah. The one thing that was, Greg also said something about Illinois does a lot of nature-based solutions work they do.
Yeah.
And then they also have the contract with the state to do mitigation plans.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So,
Good stuff.
so, you know, again, some some universities have extension programs, have those sort of programs, and, you know, they get paid and that brings the money in to support their, you know, their programming. Others use, you know, other planning groups, you know, in order to do that. So it may not be the same with all, but I'm pretty familiar with the one that, that Illinois has. And so they're very, very busy with that most days. So anyway.
Yeah. And it's an incredibly important conversation. That's why Stephanie Landrigan from UCLA, she just retired as the dean of the landscape architecture program, but she is still extension in some nuanced way working with Altadena on preserving their urban forest, keeping it from being decimated, saving what can be saved and should be saved. She's a key resource there just for general awareness.
Well, we do have a variety and an immense amount of very important information that kind of sits in our own university and those that are around us, and a lot of times does not
Yeah.
really get out there to everyone else, and how much that can help and impact emergency management. So we really need to make sure that we're really, well, first of all, if you have resources, they need to be sent to Eden to be put into the resource list. Second of all, you need to make sure that your emergency managers, I mean, trust me, they have a certain lens that they're looking through, but you can bring other things into them that they go, oh, we didn't realize that, or we've been hiring a contractor that has been helping us with that, or there might be another state agency that it may not, that you might need to connect with. Missouri is connected with our Department of Agriculture. We have a couple of nuclear power plants. And so, you know, they're wanting to make sure that anything happens, that they know what to advise, that the feds know what to, and the state needs to know what to advise to their landowners out there. And so anyway, so it's an important, you know, some of these are really, really important, but you don't really think about it in the work that you do. But that's what you need to do, is to think about how can we take our work and use it in some kind of disaster, part of the disaster cycle somewhere in there.
And what I'm doing to sell or help my dean market our research stations is using our research stations as community hubs in disaster. We have to rebuild most of the structures. Thank you, termites. By the way, we have 7 species of termites out here. Just be happy if you have 1 or 2. We have 7. But understanding that we're going to have to rebuild our facilities over the next decade or so. And here's a way to say which ones need to be priority for becoming a community hub for education, as well as disaster resilience, and building on that and saying, hey, we're in 14 places around the state. Why not use those? They're here, they're available, they're accessible.
Well, Liz, I think we're about ready to to get off the webinar, but I want to thank you again. And for those of you who didn't, and I've already seen the evaluation forms coming in. So thank you for those who have already done that. And I get to see them, you know, as the chair. But anyway, if you haven't, send them in, because we want to make sure that we're providing the best type of information to you. Thanks, Liz, for getting up very early and being with us this morning. And if there's no other questions or comments, we'll close it down for today.
Aloha, y'all.
Bye.